Hi guys. We are waiting. Hi guys, just bear with me. Everybody's trying to jump on now. So just bear with me. Okay. Hi everybody. So welcome to the Ask Any Interview free webinar. We normally don't do free webinars. This is the first one, but it's special because we're launching our very first online course. The course is more in depth than what we do face to face. But for this webinar, you're going to need a paper, a pen, and a notepad. And I have some slide notes that I will share with you after the webinar. Can everybody hear me? How do you see the hearing part? I don't know. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and start because we have 16 people on right now, and I'm going to switch over the slide. How do I do this? Just bear with me. This is the first time that I kind of doing this webinar thing. There we go. Can everybody see the slides? How do I see if they're talking? All right. So like I said, this is the Ace Any Interview webinar. This is our signature course. This is our signature course, and a lot of people, this course normally sells out in about 5 days. Okay, so I can see the comments. All right, again, a little bit at this. Okay. So a bit about me, if you've never attended one of my workshops or if you've never done the course before, my name is Jamila. I'm the owner and founder of the HR Boss. Today we will be teaching the Ace Any Interview workshop, and I will try to go through it in 30 minutes. If you have any questions and you're in the webinar, you could drop your questions on the bottom, and I will try to save a playback of the video to email to the ones that signed up. So thank you very much for joining us for this webinar this morning. So a bit about me. For those of you who are new here, I have over 7 years of experience in the field of HR. Currently, I work in 3 countries, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Jamaica. I possess a BSc in the field of HR, and I have an MBA in operations, strangely. Okay, great. I'm a certified international recruiter, and lastly, I graduated from Harvard last year with a certificate in leadership communication. So that's pretty awesome. Cool. So why did I decide to teach this course? So I decided to teach this course because, you know, a lot of people came to me and they said, you know, Jamila, doing interviews are hard. I don't know how you could interview people on a daily basis. I absolutely hate interviews. I think they suck. A lot of people say, you know, I don't understand why there need to be more than one person in the interview room. I don't understand why there needs to be 4 or 5 people on a panel. And I completely understand all of your concerns. So a lot of people say, you know, I have these skills and I'm a hard worker, but I just don't know how to put myself over in an interview. And that's a common challenge a lot of millennials face, and a lot of millennials in the Caribbean face as well. So in this webinar, we're gonna go through the following course content. The first thing we're gonna address is the job market perception versus reality. The second thing we're gonna address is resume writing skills. I have some templates that will be available in the online course. The online course is only available for $10 US for a special price for the month of April. We're going to talk about interview attire. We're going to talk about interview do's and don'ts, interview questions, and I'm going to walk you through sample interview questions that you could get. And again, we have several questions in the interview templates for the online course. What am I doing? We're going to do social media hacks, what to expect when you're applying for a job, and when is the right time to answer the PA question. So these are the kind of things that we're going to be addressing today in the course. So let's talk about the job market. The job market is tough. We have people signed up in the webinar from 3 countries. So we have Barbados on, we have Jamaica on, and we have St. Lucia. So I'm going to try to address the Eastern Caribbean and the Western Caribbean to facilitate all viewers. And if you have questions, you can drop them in the comment box and I will answer your questions as we go along. Thank you for joining us. I know it's very early, but thank you for joining us. At this point in time, I can sign off of Instagram Live because you guys really were dedicated and signed up for the webinar. So I'll end this. All right, awesome. Okay, we have people wanting to join. All right. So job market perception versus reality. The job market out there is really tough. And I know this in the Western Caribbean. I would have lived in Jamaica for a number of years. That's where I received my education. And it's hard coming out of UWI and not somebody saying they can't hear. Can you guys hear me? Kindly message in the text box if you can't hear me. Can anybody hear me? Yes, we can hear. Okay, I can go ahead. All right. So the job market it may be your personal speakers for the person that can't hear. So the job market versus reality. In the Western Caribbean, like Jamaica, the unemployment rate is about 10% now. Back in the days, it was like 17%, but it became significantly better under a Portia Simpson Miller-led administration. Right now in Barbados and similarly the Eastern Caribbean, the job market is horrific. What does that mean for you? It means that you're going to have a tough time applying against not only your locals, but your Caribbean neighbors. Whatever territory you're in, you're going to have a tough time in the job market. So really the only way that you stand out in a tough job market is by virtue of your resume. Your resume is the introduction between you and the recruiter. I would say that having a good resume and building your network are the two top things to stand out to a recruiter. Before you even get into the interview information, the first point is to actually get the interview first. And a lot of people make that mistake. They kind of send out resumes willy-nilly. They don't have any particular type of job search strategy. They just kind of like do a general cover letter and send it to everybody and their mother and expect to be picked in a lineup against several people, and that's not really how it works. So today I'm going to teach you how to strategically navigate the job market being as bad as it is. So let's look at some numbers. Shakira's not at work today, so I'm like really clumsy. Okay, so the job market in Barbados, firstly, let me address that because that's my home. In 2015, 2013, the last figures, I'm pretty sure you can see it on the screen, the unemployment figure was 11.9%. Now, this figure is made up of people who are unemployed, like fresh graduates straight out of UV, people who are on disability benefits, so people who are not able to contribute to the NIS earning scheme, people who basically rely on active taxpayers to make up that number. What happened then in 2015, we had a mass exodus of layoffs in Barbados. I think a lot of NCC workers went home, a lot of civil servants went home, and that placed a greater pressure on the economy. What else happened? Wait, I was drawing something. In addition to that, what we had was a mass exodus of layoffs in the private sector. So now in 2018, the job market is really, this is not accurate. The 11.9% is not accurate depiction of what is actually happening in Barbados and by extension, the Eastern Caribbean, because Barbados is kind of like the Mecca of the Eastern Caribbean. Whatever happens in Barbados spills over to the other Eastern Caribbean islands. So if Barbados isn't doing well economically, you tend to see Eastern Caribbean islands kind of like holding back on spending because of what is happening in Barbados. Investors tend to generally invest in Barbados more than the other Eastern Caribbean islands. Okay, let's look at different biases that are prevalent in the job market. Even before you get the interview, there are biases. So if you see the screen, I am not sure what this red line is here. If you look on the screen, you will see women and men, and you're going to see different colors. So their first thing you should notice is there will be a big gender bias. Gender bias is real in the job market. And I think it was this week, Trinidad, they made the buggery laws irrelevant. So that is even a bigger thing in Barbados. Like, we have laws against stuff like buggery. So one of the first biases is gender bias. Normally employers prefer to hire males over females. Females bring a lot of drama, and I don't say that shamefully, because I mean, it's true. Females argue about a lot of stuff and don't tend to get on with the work. Males are more open to feedback, we find. So I'm not sure what's happening here. Males are more open to feedback. So, right. Males are more open to feedback. So, a lot of employers prefer to hire a lot of male employees. They're easier to manage. The next bias is, if you look at the males and the females in the different colors, is political bias. Now, most Caribbean countries right now are in the election year. Grenada just had elections. Antigua, Barbados, we're awaiting a date for elections. It's constitutionally due by June 6th. What does that mean for you as a job seeker? As a job seeker, that means a lot of companies are waiting to see when election will be called. They're waiting to see if the governance of the country is going to change in order to make critical decisions for their business. That means that either there could be a hiring freeze. So right now, some companies that I work with, I know they're not hiring anybody on a permanent basis because they're not sure how the governance in a particular country will change. We know this is a fact that in the last 5 years, a lot of foreign investors have pulled out of Barbados. And this year, particularly in the last 2 weeks, CIBC has announced that it will be pulling out of the region. And CIBC is a major financial institution, a major financial player in Barbados. So as a job seeker, or if you're looking to change your jobs, or if you're looking for a new job, that means for you navigating carefully these waters in this political climate in order to find a job. The best time I would advise anybody to find a job would be right after the election period. It would be the end of June to September. Investors should start coming back into the country once we've declared an election date and the government is selected. Whoever would be the government is elected. If we do not bring it close to some of the governance issues we have now, that could cause a problem, but I digress. So you have to be aware of the different biases. So on the political bias in terms of the candidates, you have to understand there will be candidates going up for the same job as you that probably have favorites called in. Because the political year, a lot of candidates get people to call us and tell us, my niece is coming for a job, find something for her. So there's no way of knowing who in the interview room is next to you or who's going up next to you that may have had a favor called in. So you have to go out there giving your absolute best in order to land a job that you want. The next bias I want to address is some people are lucky enough to get internships or get job attachments straight out of school. Those people are very fortunate. And if you're still in UB, I know we have a lot of UB people watching now. If you're still in UB, I would highly advise you to network. Try to see if you can get some kind of job shadow, some kind of job attachment, even if it's working for free, to get some experience on your resume before you left school. When I was studying HR in Jamaica, I made sure that I had some type of HR experience before I came home. I received placement at PwC, and that's where I started my career even before I finished school. So ensure that you network and you get those kind of experiences before you leave school. Moving swiftly along. The next thing I want to address is unrealistic expectations. So even before you come to the interview room, you have these unrealistic expectations that you are the best thing that ever happened to the nation of Barbados or St. Lucia or Jamaica. You're the best thing and people are going to want to hire you. Now, because of free education in most Caribbean islands, everybody and their mother has a bachelor's. A lot of people now even have masters, or a lot of people now have designations. So what distinguishes you as a candidate? What is your defining characteristic as a candidate? You can't rest on the laurels of a bachelor's anymore and hope that gives you a job opportunity or that gives you an interview with us. Your resume and your total personal brand has to sell it to the interviewer. We just don't look at your resume. We look at your complete online profile, which I would get to in more in depth as we go through. We look at your LinkedIn page. A lot of you don't have LinkedIn pages. That's something that you absolutely must do now. If you don't have it now, you need to go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like the Facebook for recruiters. So we go on LinkedIn and we look to see who's in your network, who's in your connections, where you went to school, what you're doing in your current job, you know, what articles you're reading, what you're commenting on. Those things make up your personal brand and your online profile. Now, a lot of people say, Jamila, I don't understand this thing about personal branding. What does it have to do with my interview? What does this have to do with me getting a job? Your personal brand in a small island is very important. In a large island too, but more so a small island where everybody knows everybody. You can't hide down and work it. If you plant bad seeds at other workplace, chances are it will get back to your current recruiter. So that's the importance of having a personal brand. Some tips I would recommend to build a strong personal brand. One, get a LinkedIn page, a proper LinkedIn with a professional photo. I have a recommendation if you would like that. The second thing I will recommend you going to a lot of networking events, but doing so purposefully. So you don't go there to eat the people food and drink the people wine. You go there to purposefully make connections. So you look at past pictures, see who was in the room, and immediately make a target for those persons for the next networking session. Not like a stalker, but to get in the same rooms and the same circles as these people and to research conversations that they're interested in and probably approach them about conversations that you know could start up a conversation. So actively trying to build your social network. I will also advise joining clubs. There is the Rotaract Club, there is JCI Barbados, there is Kiwanis, and these things are all over the Caribbean. There's Junior Chamber of Commerce in St. Lucia. There is CYEN in St. Lucia. So it's just not a localized thing. These organizations are right across the Caribbean. What joining a club or society or being associated with these people do is that it gives you some kind of relevance. It gives you some kind of you're a part of an institution that represents something, has a particular mission, and you identify with the values or the ethics of that particular organization or that particular charity. So for recruiters, when we look at your online profile or we look at your network, we can say, okay, well, he's a Rotaract, which means, you know, he has this network. He's interested in his personal development. He's interested in social development. Those are things that make you stand out. So you want to build a strong personal brand, even before you start applying to workplaces seeking a job or to transition into a new role. The next myth I want to demystify: you will not get paid over $3,500 because you're all of that, a bag of chips, a dip, and a Diet Coke. A lot of us come out of UE. My little brother is guilty of this, and we want the salaries that we think we deserve because we spent long nights in the library and we have student loans to pay for. But because the job market is so bad, it's actually a hirer's market. So recruiters have like the best pick or the best option for a particular thing. The next thing I want to talk about today is your resume. Your resume is really how you stand out in a saturated market. It is your number one selling tool to get your foot through the door. And what does your resume say about you? Does your resume say, okay, she's organized, she has her stuff together? Does it really capture what you do as a person? What does your resume say about you? On any given day, I don't know what's going on with these slides. On any given day, my desk looks completely awful. So I'm going to give you some tips about what stands out to me as a recruiter. Like I said, I've been doing this for 7 to 8 years, and I've been doing it in 3 different islands. I started my career in Jamaica, as many of you know, and now I'm in the Eastern Caribbean. All right, so here are my top 5 tips for writing kick butt resume. So take a pen and paper and let me get cracking. Any questions? If there are any questions, just drop them in the comment box. Tip number 1, appearance is absolutely everything. You have to make sure your cover letter is justified. I see some people with some left-aligned cover letters. is a lie. Cover letter and every single set of writing on your CV has to be justified. Second thing, use one font. A lot of people use different fonts through their resume. Stick to one font. Don't use two different fonts, one for your cover letter and one for your CV. You have to stick to one particular font. The other thing I will recommend is a clean layout. So a lot of people, they will put where they work, their job title, and they would kind of like put a summary of what they do in a paragraph form. What I normally recommend is bullet point form, because recruiters have limited time to peruse the information on a cover letter or CV. So what I normally would recommend is that you put your information in bullet point form. It makes it easier for us to read. So let me give you an example. Say I work for Cockspur Rum Distillery. My job title will be right under that, and my job title will be janitor. And then my duties and responsibilities would come right under that, and in bullet point form. So my duties would be ensuring the floors are mopped every day, ensuring the sanitary items are replaced in bathrooms, carrying out cleaning requests as required. That sort of thing will come under your duties and responsibilities. I wouldn't say there is a specific length that is specified for that, but use your discretion. I don't recommend that CVs be very long, like 4 or 5 pages. If you could get your CV on 2 pages, that's excellent. For people who have extensive careers that are watching, mine is about 3 pages. So you could stretch your result to 3 pages once the content is good. The second thing I would recommend is to spell check. No, I can't spell. So I use either the spell check on my computer, or I use an app called Grammarly. Grammarly, right? I will try to type it in the text box. Okay, so the app is called Grammarly. It's absolutely free, and it spell checks your emails, your documents, your resume, and nothing goes on unless Grammarly corrects it. So that's the app that we use here at the HR Boss. The third tip, is utilize the experience and qualifications you have. Now, a lot of recruiters hire for experience. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that education is the most important thing, but really, you can't really be experienced. Once you have experience doing a particular role, you normally would hire that candidate over somebody who just has the qualifications. So getting that job shadow or highlighting some kind of experience that you've had in a particular area is very useful. If you've studied HR, for example, but you've never had any practical experience in HR, you're going to have a tough time in hell justifying why you should get into HR. HR is a very tough field to get into. So what I would recommend is doing, like I said earlier, doing a job shadow to have that to put under your experience in your CV. Highlighting your experience and qualifications. Your qualifications is supposed to come in chronological order, which means your most recent certificate or your most recent level of qualification first, and then all the older ones at the bottom. A common mistake people often use is put their secondary school CXCs on top, and then their BSCs like at the bottom, and we completely don't see that they have a BSc. So you want to put those things up there. I also recommend separating your certificates from your bachelor's and master's. So I would recommend putting your master's, bachelor's, associate degree, and your certificates in a section under it. Why I say that is because a lot of people do a lot of professional, just like certificates like supervisory management at BIMAT and so on, and that kind of clouds the whole thing. All right, moving on. Oh wait. Tip number 4, contact information. Ensure that you have your full address on your every page in the header. So your full name, your address, your home number, and your cell phone number, and your email address, a professional email address, okay? So interview attire. Interview attire is the first impression that we have of you. It is pretty basic, and there's a rule of thumb that I'm going to go through with you. Try to stick to professional business wear, and you want to play as safe as possible. For ladies, a skirt suit, a pantsuit. For men, a straight shirt with a tie, and stay away from colors like our girl Susie here. The best tips that I would give you are, one, to research the culture of the organization. The culture of the organization will dictate how you dress. So like for a graphic design firm, they probably wouldn't want you to roll up in there in a three-piece suit. However, a financial institution, they may require you to do such. So I would strongly suggest that people know signing on. I would strongly suggest that you research the culture of the organization. The second thing I would suggest is, if you wouldn't wear it to church, do not wear it to the interview. A lot of you don't go to church now, so you probably don't know the difference, but try to be as conservative as possible in your dressing. Number 3, stick to business professional wear. And number 4, your mirror is not your friend. Try to get a second opinion from like a family member or a friend about how you look if you're not sure. Okay, so we're on to the interview do's and don'ts. Interview do's: show up early, dress appropriately, bring a copy of your resume, make eye contact. That's so crucial, ensuring that you have the engagement of all the panelists that you're interviewing for. Number 5, speak up. A lot of you know the answers, but you don't speak up. Number 6, have an elevator pitch, which we will go through, and the online course which we're offering has samples of elevator pitches that you could use. An elevator pitch comes in the form of several questions. Why should we hire you? Why are you the best person for this job? There are different questions that we ask that you know can come. So the best thing is to be prepared for those questions. And number 7, prepare for situational or behavioral questions, which we will go through. All right. So interview don'ts. Don't chew gum. Don't pass any questions. If you do not understand a question, it's always best to ask the recruiter to repeat the question in the way that you can understand. Okay. Number 4, never bad talk your current or former employer. The Caribbean is small and everybody knows everybody. The HR fraternity is even smaller. So I would suggest you never bad talk your HR manager or your current boss, because chances are the recruiter can know that person or know somebody that does. Never undersell yourself. In the Eastern Caribbean, that's a big thing. The Jamaicans that locked on, y'all ain't got no problem with selling yourselves. Jamaicans are some of the most arrogant people in the world. So I have no apologies about saying that. So I think a key factor that a lot of Eastern Caribbean people have is underselling themselves, because they're not sure that if they may come off as arrogant or cocky, but really an interview is a 30 minute to hour presentation of yourself. You're selling yourself in an hour of us asking you questions. Don't be defensive, which means if the interviewer asks you a question that you think may be a bit off, don't be defensive. And number 7, do not beat around the bush. All right, so let's talk about interview questions now. When we're asking you interviewing questions, we look for specific competencies. So if we're interviewing for the role of a salesperson, we know exactly what we're looking for. We know we're looking for somebody who has the excellent communication skills, excellent interpersonal skills, somebody that could sell ice to Eskimo. That's who we're looking for in a salesperson. We're looking for somebody that is very convincing. So we have these specific competencies that we're recruiting for, and we build questions around these competencies. Now I can give you a little clue. A lot of what we ask, the answers are in the job advertisements that we sent out. So you will see a job ad. I'm sorry I don't have one. And they will have, we're looking for a candidate who has excellent interpersonal skills, a candidate who's this. The key competencies required are this. The ad normally gives away what we're looking for, and we build questions around what we put in the ad. So normally when you're preparing for an interview, it would be a sensible thing to do, to take up the ad, review it, and start to practice questions or start to research around the things that they're asking for in the ad, because they will come. So focus on the following areas that I have laid out here. 1, the experiences you've had in the past. One thing I told you all is that Okay, so we're getting a countdown. So one thing I've told you guys is you have to, nothing beats experience. So you have to pull on your past experience and give the interviewing panel what they want. So for example, we might ask the question, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult person. Don't just give them a hypothetical answer, narrow it down. So you could say, I had to deal with difficult people in the past at UV. I was involved in a lot of group meetings, and that resulted in some people not pulling their weight, and I had to speak to the person. Give a specific answer. Tell us about a situation that you were in. Don't just give us a hypothetical answer. We want to know that you actually had the experience. Even if you are a student, you could use examples at UV. All of us would have had to deal with difficult people, but we want to see how you handle the situation. So did you pull that person aside from the group project and talk to them? Did you do the work yourself? Did you report them to the lecturer? We're looking to see what actions you took. Number 2, be up to date with the current changes in law or recent occurrences in your field. So for example, I practice HR. So I have to know the, sexual harassment bill that was just passed, the ERA of 2012, the Shaw Act. So there are certain things, if you're an accountant, there are certain things that you have to know in terms of finances. If you're in compliance and risk, you have to know about FATCA. So you have to be very up to date with the current changes in law or the current changes in regulations that could affect the company that you're applying for. So you just don't dress up and go to an interview and you look sweet and you think you're all of that in a bag of chips and you think the job will fall in your lap. You have to be knowledgeable of what you're talking about. That gives you credibility. The third thing I would suggest is studying for the organization you're interviewing for. Studying for the organization you're interviewing for should not even be on here because that's obvious. But oftentimes I have interviewed people who know nothing about the companies that I'm recruiting for. They don't know when it was founded. They don't know what the mission is. They can't tell me about one of the major events. They can't tell me about the products and services. These are things you have to know. History, products and services, one major event, one charitable initiative they have done. Those things impress us as recruiters. Those things impress us. So you can't come in the interview and not know these things and expect to impress us. Also, do not research and regurgitate everything off the website. Your delivery cannot be rehearsed. Your delivery has to be convincing and it has to be compelling. One recommendation I would suggest is practice in the mirror. Like I said, we are offering this online Ace Any Interview course, and we have 10 videos, several interview sheets on their workbooks that can help you get interview ready with training videos like this, with me walking you through how to answer questions and what to expect and what to look for. We're looking for you to structure your answers in the following format: the problem, how you solve the problem, how to prevent recurrence, and how to prevent recurrence. So your answer should be structured by, so let's deal with the problem of dealing with a difficult person. So the problem is the difficult person. How you solve the problem: you spoke to the person and you reassign the work to the other group members. How would you prevent that from reoccurring? Prevention from reoccurrence probably could be to check in a little bit more regularly, not check in at the deadline to hand in the project. Probably could have checked earlier to see, if the person was working and studying and had challenges doing their part of the assignment. So we want to see how analytical you are. The problem, how you solved it, and in hindsight, how you will fix the problem from occurring in the future. This computer would not let me be great at all. Anybody has any questions before I go on? No, I'm going to give you over 50 interview questions from different sectors in this course. This course is $10 US, which is cheaper than our normal face-to-face course, which is $35. So that's a steal. I'm going to only make this offer available for the month of April. So if you subscribe to this webinar, we're going to make it available for you for the month of April. All right, let me get through this information before the time runs out. So social media. So I talked earlier about LinkedIn and developing a personal brand. The next thing you need to do is clean up your social media. whether it be your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. We could get into all of that. We have software that gets into all of that. So if you know you live a life online that you may not be proud of, or your pastor may not be proud of, you want to clean that up. Before I go back into more interview questions, if we have time, I want to talk about a common question that a lot of people ask us about. When is the right time to ask the pay question? Now, I'm a millennial. I don't believe in wasting time. So I ask the pay question normally at the very first interview. But I don't ask it. I don't ask the question as the very first question I ask. I ask it normally like the third or fourth question. So there's normally a segment at the end of the interview where they ask you, do you have any questions for us? There are several questions you can ask, and you could take a pen and paper and write this down. What is the structure of the team that I will be going into? What are your expectations of me in this current role? What is the organization's plan for the next 5 years? Who will I be directly reporting to? And then normally I bring at the end, what is the compensation for this position? That could go two ways. They could either tell you the compensation, or they could ask you, what would you like? Which is normally flipping the question back on you. All you have to do is do not call a specific figure. Some people give a range and say they work for between $2,500 to $3,500. I don't even recommend calling a figure. What I normally recommend is saying, I'm familiar with the industry standard of this particular role. I was hoping you had a budgeted figure. So you're flipping the question back on the recruiter. At that point in time, the recruiter can no longer flip the question back on you because they did it already. So I'll go over that again. You could ask them. I'm gonna take some questions, so you can start typing now. Okay. So you could ask the recruiter, what is the budgeted salary for this role? What's the compensation for this role? The recruiter can flip the question back on you. If they do flip the question back on you, you could ask them, you could tell them, I'm not familiar with the industry standard, and you prefer if they give you a budgeted figure for the position. That's the best way to answer that question. Another common question a lot of people get is, why should we hire you? Why should we hire you is 60 seconds of you selling yourself and wrapping yourself up in one package. So if you had to ask me, Jamila, why should we hire you as an HR coordinator? I would say, you should hire me because I possess a bachelor's in HR. I have over 7 years experience in the field across 3 different islands in different sectors: financial sector, hospitality, manufacturing. I have different experiences, and I believe what I bring to the table is a new look in terms of HR, is a modern way of practicing HR, which people love. So that was my way of answering and sharing about my skill set. We have a countdown on the webinar. We have less than a minute. I want to thank you for joining. I'm going to do a part 2. So I'm going to send an email when we're going to do a part 2. Thank you very much for joining. You guys will all be offered a special rate on our online course, which will have videos just like this, as well as tons of interview questions. Thank you for joining this morning. We have one question. Right, so thank you very much for joining. I'll send you guys an email with when we're going to have our second webinar. So thank you very much and have a wonderful Saturday. I really hope this was helpful for you and give you an insight into what our course is going to be all about. I am so excited to release this course. I poured blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it's a package that I'm ready to release to the Caribbean after recruiting in the Caribbean for 7 years, okay? So thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you webinar 2. Yes. So yes, keep your questions for webinar 2. You know what? I probably can do webinar 2 tomorrow. So look in your emails. I will send the link for webinar 2, which will probably be tomorrow. So thank you very much, guys. Have a great Saturday, and I'll leave the replay up. Bye. Okay, how do I stop this now? Stop sharing.